Hello, everyone. This is Iulia from the community team, and today we're going to be building our own Spotify Wrapped from our personal data. Everyone's probably heard about Spotify Wrapped. Basically, at the end of the year, you get a data analytics dashboard that shows you your top artists, your top album of the year, how many minutes or hours you've listened to a particular song, and so on and so forth. So it's a data science solution that just reached the mainstream, so to say. However, it might not be entirely accurate or as complex and comprehensive as you would like it to be. So what we can actually do is build our own. Now, to do this, Spotify actually makes it possible for you to download your own data. So you just have to go to your account, select that you want your extensive streaming history and request this data. It will be emailed to you within a month, although sometimes it can be as quickly as one day. Once you have this data, it will be emailed to you as a list of JSON documents, and it will have this document along with it explaining what all the fields are. So let's try to take a look and explore this data. Basically, I've created a notebook that will allow us to read this data and explore it, and then eventually put it into an Elasticsearch index to allow us to very quickly analyze this data. So if we read one of these files, you will see that we have them in this data folder over here, all the streaming history that I've had over the past 5 years. And if I show you a few examples, each row in this data set is basically a song you've listened to. You have information like how many milliseconds of this song did you listen to, what were the times that you played it, the song, the album, the artist, and a few other data fields that I've hidden away for privacy reasons, but it is quite extensive. So what we can do is we can take all of these, put it into an Elasticsearch index by simply connecting to your Elasticsearch, either cloud or local installation. You can create an index and add all this data to it. I have a little script here that goes through all the files in your data folder and basically adds these to Elastic. And we're using the helper that allows us to bulk ingest all this data into one go. The mapping is automatically generated by Elastic. Important to note that a lot of these fields are added as both a text and a keyword field, which will then allow us to create aggregations and create different statistics and put this data in different buckets. So that's something important that we have to have. Once the data has been added to Elastic, however, we can start searching. So we can make super simple queries like a match query looking at the artist name. And in my example, Hozier has been my top artist for quite a few years. So if I search for this, turns out I have listened to a song by Hozier about 5,000 times over the entirety of my data. However, this is not limited to 2024. So we can make the queries a bit more complex to dive into this deeper. So if we want to limit it to 2024, we can use a range query. And you see we use this on the time field that we've identified in our data. And again, we search for the top artists using the keyword, which will then help us aggregate all of these into buckets. So we see the time we've listened to for each single artist. When we run this, turns out I've listened to Linkin Park 2,071 times, Hozier a little fewer times, and you can see the rest of my ranking. However, this is by the amount of times played, whereas what we can also do is we can add together the amount of time that we've listened to this artist. So we have the same range query as before. We have the same looking for the artist field, arranging it in order by the highest number of listens. And we use this little aggregation calculation with the sum that allows us to add together all the milliseconds of playtime for that respective artist. So if we run this one, turns out Hozier takes the lead again, even though we've listened to it fewer times. The total amount of playtime was almost 14 hours. So this is already going a bit deeper than what the Spotify Wrapped ranking gives you, and you have the transparency of knowing how it's calculated. Now, of course, this is just an example with Python, but you could just as easily use the dev tools in your Elastic Cloud to do the same queries. So for example, we have this here, again, looking for Hozier between beginning of 2024 and now. And we see we had a total of 268 plays. If we look for our entire artist ranking, Once again, we can see it here as well. It's just a little easier to consume when you do it with the Python code, so you can process the result. Or to make it even better, you can, of course, explore this data directly into through a dashboard form. So what I've done is I've created a dashboard, and if I quickly select the 2024 data, we can see basically my year of music, looking back at it, and a lot of insights in here. You see I have some visualizations of various number, like amount of hours played. We have country codes in our data, so we can map it to a map visualization. And we can look quite a bit deeper into how these trends changed over time. Let's take a look at this one, for example. You can edit it. So basically how these dashboards work is you can choose the type of visualization that you want. So for example, this could have been a bar instead, and you can drag the fields from here. This is our index that we've created via Python, and we have a data view that you can directly build up in Kibana as well. This just allows you to interact with these fields. So we can basically, like I said, select the data type, and then I can see how many hours I've played in various time buckets. So this is like one per week, one bucket per week. We can see that sometime in March, I listened to quite a lot more music. And then just at the beginning of summer, kind of went down. So it's really nice to see how much time I spent listening to music. We've summed this up over the weeks, and we've converted it from milliseconds to hours. You can, of course, show this in days as well. So, and then change this however you want. Going back to the dashboard, you can see there's quite a lot of types of visualizations that we can make. I've done a bar chart here showing the total time I've listened to divided by my top artists. We have the different metrics that I was mentioning before, either by number of times you played a song or amount of time summed together through the aggregation query. And furthermore, we can also look at the top song at various months. So we can see we had a Hozier song, a Dua Lipa song, Hozier song again, Linkin Park, Twilight soundtrack, and so on. I think this really gives you a lot more dimensions than if you just have your overall top 10 over the whole year, since every month maybe it has a little bit of a quirk. And the best part about it is that you can make, whichever use case you want to do out of this. So this dashboard kind of made sense for me. But I also got my colleague's music breakdown, and she's actually a Taylor Swift fan, which I thought would look really cool in a dashboard as well. So as you can see, she had by far a lot of listening hours in here. And I also managed to break this down by albums or eras, I guess you would say. And you can see even the version of an album that you listened to and which era was more predominant in the history. You can see your, again, top songs and which albums you listen to more over time. So maybe, for example, we can see that the Tortured Poets department started to pop up around April, which might be when the album came out. So it's really nice to have this visualization dive a bit deeper into these trends. And these are, again, as easy to create as dropping them around. And we have the top 6 albums in here. You can sort them however you want. And with the color mapping, you can even add the specific colors that you want to. So I tried to match this as much as possible to the Taylor Swift colors. Yeah. But to sum up, using this data is a really fun way of testing out the features of Elasticsearch and Kibana, going through things like queries, aggregation, filters, as well as how the dashboards can be a really easy and low-code way to explore your data versus doing it with the command in the dev tools or using your favorite client like the Python client for Elastic. If you like this, please do follow along. You can request your own Spotify data, try to replicate it with the notebook that is linked to this blog, and create your very own dashboard. And I would be very curious to see the results. So happy coding, everyone.